I first came into contact with Kyabra because I had Anthony. Well, after having my 2 older children taken from me by the Department of Child Safety, the intervention was to come to Kyabra so they could see that my children weren't in jeopardy and that everything was all good and fine. When I first went to playgroup, I had no idea of what exactly Kyabra offered. I spoke to the worker that was running the playgroup, and she basically guided me through and held my hand and showed me that there are a lot of things, and if I was willing to and if I wanted to better myself and arm myself with knowledge, that I had somewhere to go and I had the resources available to me all in the one place. It was a step that I took that I was pushed into by the Department of Child Safety that I'm really grateful for. The reason for me choosing to go with minute hours childcare through Kyabra was because cost-wise it's a lot more effective for me because I can't afford to be paying for full days and stuff like that, and not that I want to anyway, I prefer to have my children with me. In having Anthony go to the limited hours childcare, it's given him supports and it's enabled him to overcome traumas. Children are taught to develop emotionally as well as mentally and physically. They're taught everything that they're needed without actually having to put them into a long, full daycare sort of situation where it keeps the kids close with me, but it allows me to see their development, and it also allows children to become socialised in an environment where I don't have to force them to go every day, where they actually like going because they're going at a time and they're in a happier place than feeling like they're being shoved somewhere. My hopes and my goals, what I want, what I was hoping to achieve through going, once I got into my supported accommodation house, was just finding a way to budget and getting linked in with other organisations for housing to follow on with, but to actually get some stability and to regather and get my own mental health issues under control and give my children a stable home where they could feel safe and it wouldn't be in jeopardy that they'd be on the streets. And through having that, I've now ended up in my own home, living independently, supporting my children, and I know how to budget, and I now have the knowledge of what resources I need and the confidence to access what I need without allowing things to become too overwhelming to tackle. Some of the most important skills that I have learned in being involved with the supported accommodation team was, at first I wasn't able to speak on the phone or to access anything due to lack of confidence, but having someone there to help and guide me through that process and to give me the confidence and show me the tools that I needed to be able to achieve what I needed to get the end result that would best suit my situation. After having a bad rental history with my past relationships and coming out of domestic violence and having even my children pass away was really difficult, but through once I'd actually had the help and the support that I got over the year that I had in the supported accommodation home, it's now given me back a life that I never thought possible to achieve. I had a lot of support also in with filling forms and finding different forms and where where I could go to access the things that I needed in order to get to the point where I am now, which is a world away from where I started. I first came across finding out about the NELS loans through another one of my workers, and at the time, being heavily pregnant and not having a washing machine, already having one child, it was a really dire need to actually have it, and it would have put me in total despair to not have the items that I actually got through it. When I found out that I was actually approved for the loan, it was a big relief. I was extremely happy and excited, ecstatic at the fact that I didn't have to worry about where my daughter was going to sleep, because the cot was a big part of why I wanted to access the loan. And having had no washing machine for about 2 weeks before I actually accessed the loan, it gave me a lot of peace of mind to know that I had that there. It enabled me to not have to stress and to be able to have my child and to get on with doing everything I needed to do without stressing about how I was going to come up with paying it back, because there is no interest. It makes it a lot more feasible to repay it, and to just have that there when I know I need something that's a big purchase item which I can't afford to save for was a really big comfort. It made everything else that happened after that a lot easier to deal with. With the fact that my daughter is disabled and is terminal, her life is very short and very precious, and not having contact with her for that time was really difficult. It made my son feel like he had to shoulder the burden of trying to keep the family together, to stay with her and look after her, because he was able-bodied and she wasn't. It was totally out of my hands, and no one informed her that I had no control over it, and I wasn't allowed to speak to her about those issues. So it was a real added stress, and without the help that I received, it wouldn't have got any better. All the time that went by, when we didn't see the kids, they were losing contact, they were losing a familiarity with each other, and my son was crying regularly, holding the photos of his brother and sister, because he wasn't allowed to see them, and he couldn't understand why he wasn't allowed to see his siblings and everyone else was allowed to see theirs. And that was really hard, that was really traumatic for him, and it's another thing that the limited hours childcare helped him with, to deal with and understand that some things are just out of our hands. Benefits to my family from being connected with the service is that it's kept me and my children together. It's prevented the Department of Child Safety from having any recourse to actually come and intervene with my children. It's given me the independence and the stability to know that I have confidence to stand up and say that I deserve to have my children, and that I can support myself and support the life for my kids and still be a whole person. Once I lost Ollie, once he passed away, it was a whole mental health issue of depression and how to deal with that. And at that time we were in a group of it was a parent trial, and then we had all the parenting with mental health and all that. Instead of feeling like I was alone and had no recourse, that I was going to sink back into a hole of depression, I had ways of, whether it be art therapy with therapists from the Mater Hospital, or whether it was just having someone to talk to, a group of people that you could that could relate to what you were going through. It was a big part of actually helping me heal and even helping my son heal. Since he passed away next to both of us, it gave us both a chance, him in the childcare and me in the group, to adjust to it and find ways of dealing with it and coping. And having support there from people that knew him and loved him just as much as I did. So everyone collaborates with everyone, and it's a big thing, because I mean, I used to talk to Trish, and then she'd come to you, then you come to me, and then we'd all sort of brainstorm everything and then come out with the results. So, because I've had workers in just about every section of Kyabra, and it was a home, it was a family. It was always, when I rang up, there was always someone there to answer the call. Because you motivated me, you pushed me to go, and you've got to do this. And even with going to appointments and going to Department of Housing, supporting me in being there with me when you didn't have to, and transportation, helping with me with my children when there was conversations that needed to be had. But you were there to be a strong support and make it something that was a lot more conceivable to achieve.